Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and in this video we'll be talking about 7 odd idioms that every English language learner should know. Now, most idioms are quite odd or strange to non-native speakers, and it doesn't really matter what language you're learning. An idiom just means a collection of words to make up a phrase that doesn't have the meaning you might think it does. So as an example, the phrase to kick the bucket. So if we have a bucket and we're kicking that thing, there's no real meaning or connection to dying, which is the meaning of that. So if you say, oh, like that guy kicked the bucket, it just means that he died. But there's no, again, real connection to the words or the phrase itself that would give you any connection or any meaning of that. So when people are learning idioms, we'll talk about a few of them in this video, 7 of them in fact. But as we go through the video, we'll also talk about some ways to remember them so that they don't sound so weird and it becomes much easier for you to understand what these are. The first one is the cold shoulder, or to give someone the cold shoulder. As an example, a friend of mine was having an argument with his girlfriend and she got very upset with him, so she started giving him the cold shoulder. Now this just means she was upset, she was ignoring him for some reason, and typically the cold shoulder is used when people are upset maybe in a relationship, or you're trying to talk to a girl when you're asking her out but she doesn't say anything, she doesn't respond to you, but typically it's because people are upset for some reason. But this is one of those idioms where, again, it's kind of a weird thing to think about what is the connection between being upset or ignoring someone and a cold shoulder. So this is where idioms can become maybe not so weird for you if you think about their origin, or if you try to create a story in your own mind about it. Now, as an example with this one, the cold shoulder, you can kind of think about it physically, and that's why we're starting with this one. So the cold shoulder, maybe you're thinking about pulling your shoulder away from someone else. So when you're moving away from that person, the shoulder to the other person becomes kind of cold. If you move back towards that person, then it's becoming warm again. So when you're having a good connection with someone, we don't call that having a hot or a warm shoulder, but in this case, you can think of the opposite, which is to give someone the cold shoulder. So instead of giving them like a warm shoulder, which again isn't an idiom that we would use, you can say, I'm giving them the cold shoulder if I'm ignoring them. The next one, very common and useful, is down to earth. Down to earth. First, listen carefully to the blending of this pronunciation. Down to earth. Down to earth. Down to earth. Down to earth. The to from to and even the o, it slightly changes to more of a DA sound. Down to earth. Down to earth. Down to earth, if you think about, again, trying to create a story in your mind or some way to connect this idea of a person that's maybe just everyday and average and just kind of very normal. So a down-to-earth person, as opposed to someone like an angel. You know, if we were to think about that idea of someone like an angel that's very high up in the sky, so that person, kind of like a movie star or a king or a famous celebrity, when you look at them, you think, wow, that's an amazing person. But, you know, you talk to your just friend that lives on the same street as you, and that person is very down to earth. They have no trying to think of themselves as more important than they actually are. They're just very normal and everyday. So it's kind of the difference between someone, again, floating up here like an amazing Superman, hero, angel kind of person, and somebody that has their feet on the ground, that's down to earth. Next is an extremely useful phrasal verb, and this is to jack something up. Now, the regular meaning of this is to increase the height of something quickly, so to elevate something quickly, but we can use it for more than just physical things. Now, the origin of this is if you think about you have a car and you have the wheels on the car and you need to elevate the car so that you can remove one of the wheels, you use a jack for that purpose. So a jack is a little thing that you put under the car and you click it up, 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 so you can increase the height of the car and you can change the wheels on it. From that, we can get more figurative things like a grocery store jacking up the prices, maybe during some time where there's a food shortage, or hotels are jacking up their prices over holiday seasons. Often you'll hear people talking about raising the prices very high, very quickly, and both of these are the key to this phrase, not only the increase in something, but the speed at which you're doing it. The odd thing is that maybe a jack, it actually takes a while to jack up a car, and you're not really increasing it that high. But when people talk about jacking something up, they're talking about increasing something quite a bit and also doing it rather quickly. So whenever you see a large price, or you go to a restaurant one day and then you come back maybe a year later and say, wow, like these guys really jacked up their prices. They jacked up their prices. Next is an advanced idiom, and this is to plead the fifth. To plead the fifth. Now, instead of saying I'm going to be silent or not saying anything, especially when I might be in trouble, the legal origin of this is when you go into a courtroom, and the Fifth Amendment is where you have the right not to incriminate yourself. So if you go, if let's say I'm in like an actual court case and maybe somebody was killed, and even if I did it, I'm sitting there and like the other lawyer says, hey, did you kill that person? I don't want to lie, but I can plead the fifth, which means that I can like choose to not say anything, because if I do say something, it might hurt me. It might incriminate me or show that I'm the person that has been, found guilty in that case. But if I don't say anything, I'm pleading the fifth, and you actually can say this in court. So like I exercise the right to plead the fifth, which just means like even if you didn't do anything wrong, you're not going to say anything about something. But in an everyday sense, we can take that idea and, maybe somebody just did something wrong and they're not saying about it. They're just remaining silent about something. But typically it's because maybe they caused a problem, like two parents are looking at their child who probably broke something or did something, and you ask the child, oh, what happened? And the child doesn't say anything. And the father says to the mother, it looks like he's pleading the fifth. So he doesn't want to say anything that might get him in trouble, in the same way that someone might not do that in a court of law, to plead the fifth. Next, an ace in the hole. An ace in the hole. This is another strange sounding word, especially if you don't understand the origin of it, but that's why we'll help you understand the origin with this video right now. So, to have an ace in the hole, this is coming from the idea of playing poker, or any kind of cards where you have a whole card, and this is a hidden card where maybe other people don't know what the card is, or it could even be a card that you have personally and other people can't see that thing. But the ace is typically the most powerful card, or the card with the highest level or value in a game of cards, especially poker. And so if you have an ace, and maybe like other people have a king or a jack or a two or something, you are going to beat those people. But if they don't know about it, then you have an ace in the hole, as opposed to having maybe an ace that everyone else can see. Now, there are lots of different kinds of poker, and I won't go into playing like card game things or whatever, but this is where the idea comes from. So to have an ace in the hole, often you have to kind of dig deeper into idioms like this when you're trying to understand what they are. But it's better to, when you learn something like this and you hear something interesting, maybe a friend says, oh, like an ace in the hole, that's an interesting kind of thing that you hear, go like looking deeper into that, like actually try to research the idiom a little bit more and try to understand what it means. So, okay, an ace in the hole, what does that mean? And you can begin with the context of that and try to think, okay, what does it mean? So in this case, actually an ace in the hole means a hidden advantage. So it just means you have something you're hiding and you will pull it out later to win the game, or I guess in the case of poker. But you can also do something like, wow, I guess like this company, we thought they were very weak, but their ace in the hole was that they have like a really great marketing manager, and that person was able to help the company succeed and even beat us at doing something. So to have an ace in the hole, it just means to have a hidden advantage. But again, when you think about the origin of things like these, if you begin trying to think about, okay, what's the meaning that we have here? How do we make a connection? And then if you can't make a connection, then try to create your own story. So imagine you're playing cards and you have an ace that no one can see. That's your ace in the hole. And you pull out the card and you win the game. Next, to bite the bullet. To bite the bullet. Now, if you think about a bullet coming at you, this is a maybe terrible thing, and you know you're going to get shot, you know you're going to get hit by that bullet, but okay, you just have to accept that thing. So to bite the bullet just means to accept some kind of pain or punishment. Now, typically biting the bullet means really just anything where you're in a troublesome situation. It doesn't matter if you've created that problem for yourself or if someone created the problem for you, but typically it's for people that create their own problems. As an example, maybe I stole something and then I had to tell people about it and I felt really bad about that, but I worried about it for a long time. Oh no, I stole something and people are mad at me, but if I go up to them and apologize, I'm biting the bullet. So maybe I get punished a little bit. So my dad says, you can't use the car for a week or whatever, but I'm biting the bullet in that sense. So anytime that I have to accept some pain or some punishment just by having to do something, maybe I have to work really hard. Like when you're starting a business, there's a lot of work that's required to do that, a lot of communicating, connecting with people, trying to design things and build things to help other people. So you have to really bite the bullet if you want to do that kind of thing. So anything that requires work, whether you're training to be an athlete or you're training to be, whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Anything that requires time and effort will require you to bite the bullet. And I'll leave you with the last one, which is to call it a day, to call it a day. Now, when I'm typically teaching these phrases, I try to introduce it by saying it a bit more clearly, but then we'll go back and review a few of them, especially if the pronunciation has a very clear blend. And in this case, it does. So to call it a day, just so you understand what I'm saying, but the blended natural speech, the way you should say it in conversations is to call it a day, to call it a day. To call it a day. Now, to call it a day just means, okay, we're going to finish with this project or we're going to stop here for today. So let's say I'm outside, I'm working, I'm doing some gardening work, and I've been out for maybe a couple of hours working with my team. We're building things, and then maybe around 5 o'clock, we're getting quite tired, and we decided to call it a day. We called it a day. So maybe your team is working really hard if you got something for work, or, really doesn't matter what you're doing. Anything where you could be hiking for some period of time, riding your bike for a long period of time. But typically it's where you've been doing an activity for a particular day, maybe for a couple of hours, and you're quite tired or you're ready to finish for that particular day. So we will call it a day with this video, and I encourage you to go back and review all of these great idioms and all of the new idioms that you learn. It's much better to focus on maybe one or two that you learn instead of trying to remember, 1,000 new idioms, like you buy some idiom book and just read all those. You're going to forget them anyway. So just focus on maybe one a day and really try to understand the meaning of it. Really try to understand the origin or create your own story for that thing. Well, if you have enjoyed this video, do click that like button, become a subscriber to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you'd also like to learn a whole bunch of more vocabulary as well as improve all of the fluency habits required to speak, whether that's learning to maybe improve the way you use your grammar so you can use it automatically, or your listening, or being able to improve your speaking confidence so you can have better conversations with native speakers. All of these things we can help you do absolutely free at EnglishAnyone.com. We have a free quiz that will help you focus on whatever your goal happens to be. Always focus on your weakest fluency habit first, and as you improve that, it will get you much more excited to improve all of the others. To start doing that right now, absolutely free, click on the link in this video to take our free fluency quiz. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.